What we got this weekend was a lecture from Michelle Obama about how our standards for her are too high. That what we are expecting of her is to dazzle us, and that it's unfair. And she goes on to suggest it's sexism and racism that leads us to set these standards or to want Trump instead. Take a listen to SOT 34 to kick it off.
That some of us are choosing to ignore Donald Trump's gross incompetence while asking Kamala to dazzle us at every turn. I hope that you'll forgive me if I'm a little angry that we are indifferent to his erratic behavior, his obvious mental decline, his history as a convicted felon, a known slumlord, a predator found liable for sexual abuse. All of this while we pick apart Kamala's answers from interviews that he doesn't even have the courage to do, y'all.
Dazzle? That's where the bar has been set, guys?
She said dazzle us at every turn. That's a straw man argument, in my opinion, Megyn. When she doesn't answer these questions, it's not just that I'm curious about what the policies would be as a voter of a Kamala Harris administration. I just want to know how she thinks. I want to see how her mind works. I want to see how she works things out. And to give these answers that just sort of meandering that go nowhere, she's deflecting. It's what she's declining to answer. She's declining to engage. She's declining to show people how she thinks. And so I think Michelle Obama is wrong about that. And nobody's asking her to dazzle us at every turn. We're asking her to behave like a normal presidential candidate and give interviews that are, hold press conferences. She still has not held a press conference. She's given these selected interviews and in a press conference, there'd be follow-up questions. Somebody asked a question, her answer would raise another question. I just want to see how her mind works. I want to see what kind of president she'd be. I don't think that's too much to ask.
Now, Michelle goes on, Tom. She goes on to direct her message right to men and also women then too. But this is her closing message as we have, 8 days to go. Watch.
Please do not put our lives in the hands of politicians, mostly men, who have no clue or do not care about what we as women are going through. See, anyone out there thinking about sitting out this election or voting for Donald Trump or a third-party candidate in protest because you're fed up, let me warn you, your rage does not exist in a vacuum. If we don't get this election right, your wife, your daughter, your mother, we as women will become collateral damage to your rage. To the women listening, we have every right to demand that the men in our lives do better by us. We have to use our voices to make these choices clear to the men that we love. Our lives are worth more than their anger and disappointment. I lay awake at night wondering what in the world is going on. And it's clear to me that the question isn't whether Kamala is ready for this moment, because by every measure, she has demonstrated that she's ready. The real question is, as a country, are we ready for this moment?
Tom, your thoughts on that our lives as women are worth more than your anger and disappointment as a man. That's the closing message.
Yeah. Once again, America has disappointed Michelle Obama. Just can't seem to rise to her expectations or something. Mm-hmm. Listen, broadly speaking, right, it is not a good idea to send out Michelle Obama, Barack Obama, and everybody else to try and browbeat voters into, voting the way that you want them to, as opposed to persuading them and showing them through argument and through issues how your vision for the country is going to be better for them than the alternative. And they have settled on this idea that their closing argument is, Trump's orange man bad, right? It's been the Democrats, it's been what Kamala Harris, and they can get a certain amount of mileage out of that, obviously. I mean, you can see by the polls that they've gotten a lot of mileage out of it, but is it enough? I just don't think it is. And then to send people out, to sort of take this morally superior approach and tell voters how to think and what to do and how to vote. And if you don't, your wives and mothers and daughters and everyone are going to be so disappointed in you and all that. It's just not, it doesn't strike me as compelling. And I don't know that there's any evidence that it's going to move the needle.
Well, the other thing is we just had Barack Obama last week going, how do we get so divided? I don't know how we got so divided. Why don't you take a look at rhetoric like that, saying that if you're a Trump voter, your anger is going to cost women their lives. Not even a thought, not even an attempt to understand, you know what? There are actually a lot of men and women who worry about domestic terrorism, who worry about a nuclear bomb, who worry about crime on the streets of places like New York and thought things were better under Trump. We are not driven as a country, as a people, by the sole issue of abortion and what might happen in one state where they've restricted it. And they think it's all about those few women who cannot, in today's day and age, figure out how to get an abortion. Where, by the way, it may be harder than it was pre-Roe, but it's not hard. You can still get the abortion drugs. There are more abortions now than pre-Dobbs. That's a fact. But they think everyone is driven by what happens with abortion as opposed to those issues I just outlined. It's absolutely clueless, and it's just so divisive to look at the men and say, check your anger. I am more important. Me and my uterus. It's like, that's what's going to drive up the male vote, right? I mean, Andrew, I feel like this is why young men are like, forget these people. Those 5% we talked about. That kind of speech is going to make them go in there and pull the lever for Trump.
Yeah, well, the theory of the case is, I guess, that there's what they call Dobbs dads out there, that there are enough men who will be cowed by this sort of rhetoric. It's hard, especially coming from Michelle Obama. This country did elect her husband, a Black American president, twice. We did give the popular vote to Hillary Clinton, a woman, once. It's hard to keep going back to this that this is a racist and sexist country when you look at what's happened over the last 10, 15, 20 years in this country. So I think it's a dry well. They keep going back to it. It may work again. I don't know. But I think that, overall, I think you do have this huge divide right now, or bigger than normal divide, along sort of sex, I guess. And the sleeper issue, I think, and Megyn, I know you've talked about it before, is the sort of the trans issue, which is out there as well, which I think is another one which is really turning off both males and a lot of female voters right now.
Mm-hmm. It is amazing.
Can I just add real quick, Megyn?
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Again, it's always useful to remind people that if there's racism and sexism that is preventing Kamala Harris from being president, Democratic primary voters are the ones who rejected her in 2019. They got a good look at her and they simply didn't want to choose her. She didn't even make it to the starting gate in Iowa. And so, is she arguing that Democratic primary voters were racist and sexist in 2019?
Right. Well, the other point is the Democrats were on bended knee with 24 red roses begging Michelle Obama to run, especially when Joe Biden started to implode. They would have done anything to sub her in. Is it just Kamala Harris's race and gender, only when it's in the name and face of Kamala Harris, that being a person of color and a woman will stop you? And it's just, I'm so sick and tired of Michelle Obama whining about how racist and sexist America is. We made her rich and famous and beloved beyond any measure. Everything she has is due to this country, her Martha's Vineyard estate and her Chicago estate and her Washington, D.C. estate and her Hawaii estate and her trips on the David Geffen yacht. I am sick and tired of her complaining about us. It's like Oprah. Just shut up. All of your gifts are due to us. All we want to hear you say is thank you. That's it. That's what we want to hear you say. Stop ripping on the country. This year, supply chain issues have been more prevalent than ever. Whether it's the result of natural disasters like Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton, global conflict, or inflation, the impacts are being felt everywhere. While they sometimes are a minor inconvenience, delays in accessing essential medications can become catastrophic. The U.S. relies on overseas sources for more than 80% of its generic medications. So what happens when there are delays? Or what if supplies are cut off? How will you care for your loved ones and yourself? The Jase case offers peace of mind for you and your family in the face of delays, shortages, and disasters. This is an emergency medication kit containing 5 life-saving antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. Simply complete a quick online evaluation to ensure you're prepared. The Jase case can also be customized with add-ons like ivermectin, EpiPens, and more. Don't wait. Consider preparing right now. Receive a discount on your Jase case by visiting jase.com and entering promo code MK at checkout. That's promo code MK at jase.com, ensuring you have the right medications exactly when you need them. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.